to America's front yard.
We're at the National Mall in our nation's capital for the Innovative Housing Showcase. This was co-hosted by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the National Home Builders Association. And it's a really big deal for tiny houses.
It's a huge deal for such a small house.
Not only are we getting national exposure, but HUD itself is endorsing tiny houses as an innovative, quality, affordable housing option that it wants states and local municipalities to learn about and explore to meet the housing needs of all of its residents.
Well, the ideal is to address a couple of very major problems that we're having. One is housing affordability, and the other is resilience. We've, over the last few weeks, had a lot of storms, tornadoes, homes have been destroyed. And so, we're looking for building techniques that will withstand some of those things so that we don't have to keep spending the same money. And then you look at the number of families that are cost burdened. You're looking at 37 million households, and severely cost burdened, you're talking 18 million households. Severely being 50% or more of your income going for housing. And what we want people to see is that this is still America. We still have innovative people here who can help come up with real solutions. And we don't want to just talk about it. We want people to actually be able to come here and see tiny homes, see the compartmentalized homes, the manufactured homes. We want them to see some of the tunneling devices and things that are used to put in infrastructure. And a lot of this stuff is available, but we're being hampered by regulatory barriers. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to put it here on the National Mall. So also the legislative branch could see what was going on, because it's going to require federal, state, local, nonprofits, for-profits, faith-based, everybody working together. We certainly have the capability of solving our issues.
So I'm with the Office of Innovation in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We're a brand new office. We helped to organize and coordinate putting on this event. We had a big team that came together to put it together, but the idea was to bring innovative ideas to the mall, put them right here on America's front lawn, and let tourists see them, let policymakers come through, members of both the executive branch and the legislature, to give people a good feel for what ideas there are out there in America these days.
So for the last 5 days, we've been touring all different kinds of structures. One of them is super cool. It's called Boxable. It's actually an expandable house structure.
Hi, I'm Paolo Tiramani. I'm the CEO of Boxable. We're a startup in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's our mission to produce quality homes at the very, very highest quality standard at the very, very lowest price. And the answer to doing that is factory production. And the problem with factory production until today has been odd sizes, low ceilings, narrow rooms. And Boxable fixes all of that. We're standing right now in a beautiful 18-foot wide by 38 clear span space, structurally immensely solid with a very, very high 9.5-foot ceiling. And the best way to think about Boxable are that we make rooms that are architecturally blank, and they can be completed in the field and combined in any size or layout, and the architecture can be dialed in. Really, we call it the gingerbread, because architecture is geographically specific on site. So we do the heavy lifting. They can be shipped en masse to a site and finished out according to the customer's wishes, whether it's the end user or a project manager or a professional builder. Boxable comes in 3 sizes, very easy to understand from an exterior point of view. The 40 by 20, 30 by 20, and 20 by 20. So a 20 by 20, we would call that on the West Coast, the casita, but that would be very comparable in cost to a tiny home. Functionally, it would be absolutely terrific. And the tiny homes, you know, they're very pretty, they're very attractive, but perhaps a little cramped on the width. And with our casita, you'd be 20 foot by 20 foot with a 9.5 foot ceiling. This huge room, it seems unbelievable, but it packs down, and you can leave your furniture in it. You can just push it over to one side to 8.5 foot wide. And from the ground to the top will be 13.5 foot. That means that you can hitch it up to your wagon, your pickup truck, and you can just roll. And when you get to your destination, the wheel sets are on airbags, very easy to understand. Just let the air out, and the casita will come to the ground. And as a permanent structure, the construction has not been compromised at all. In fact, our walls are laminate walls, and they're built to a much higher code than the current ICC code. They're laminate panels, they're burst-proof, they're waterproof, they have an A fire rating, 28R value walls. Mold really can't grow on the product. It's a proper consumer product in the same way of anything you'd think that you would buy in your modern life, and this is to a quality standard that is similar to that.
You can create something as small as a tiny home with it, or massive, and you can use different blocks to build, you know, even multi-family housing structures with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and it uses SIPs, structurally insulated panels. And another product here that's featured that's a lot like that, but in a very different package, is Core Housing Solutions. It could be something perfect for natural disaster, rapid relief housing, or as a cozy, affordable home for someone who enjoys a downstairs bedroom.
And we really wanted the goal of producing a house that's really sustainable, really rugged, really resilient, and really affordable. We're using a SIP panel system, which you guys have heard of, I'm sure. Ours are a little bit different. They were developed by a NASA engineer. The structure's rated for 180 mile-an-hour winds. The windows and doors bring it down to 157, which is still category 4, right? So it's a really strong house. There's also no wood structure to go bad. The structure's lightweight. You guys know you've been traveling in a tiny house for a long time, and it's heavy and cumbersome. This house is 25 feet, and it's half the average weight of a tiny house that size. It's 5,500 pounds. So F-150, half-ton pickup truck, you pull it, you're good to go. And to buy, $28,000 for our Firefly model, 25-foot house, fully loaded, all the goods, all the cabinetry, the appliances. Yes, the appliances are included. Most people think I'm talking about just a shell when I give that price. No, it's a house. You bring your Pop-Tarts, your clothes, you move in. We're getting droves of people that are decision makers, people that are in Congress here, state, federal, all these representatives are coming here, FEMA, FHA, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, they're all here, HUD, they're all here. They're all coming to us saying, hey, this actually works. We didn't know this was here. We didn't know this was so viable. What can we do to help you guys be able to live in these legally? Which is, you know, that's the end result. We want to be able to live in our houses legally. We don't want to be in fear of getting code enforcement called. We don't want to be in fear of getting health department called. We want to just be able to do it. And I think we've been working on it from the municipalities up, right, local. If we can start from the top and start working down and have them both going, the meet in the middle is going to come a lot faster.
So what's wonderful is everything that everyone has been working for under the American Tiny House Association, and we're Washington State chapter leaders. You have to do this, and not just a local level, but at a county level, municipalities. You got to really break down and talk to these small groups. But having a sweeping statewide legislation, I mean, there's a precedent that you can go off of. So when we go to these city council meetings, we go to the local planning departments, we can say, look at what the Governor Jay Inslee signed and put into place, and he agrees with, and why. And then that makes that conversation a lot easier because they're not so nervous about what it means.
The Tiny House Bill, ESSB 5383, also clarifies that tiny houses on wheels are a legal product to the state of Washington. So it allows for tiny home communities to be developed, and also tiny homes to be placed in mobile home parks and manufactured housing communities as well. But even better, that the fact that it's a legal product in the state of Washington now, they're going to start allowing them as ADUs, and as far as just even single residencies, that they're going to start looking at those kind of things. So it's going to be great.
lot of people don't understand that it was illegal. So, you know, you talk, hey, we just did this sweeping statewide legislation. They're like, why? Can't you just live in a tiny house? Why in the world would that be illegal? But then you kind of break down for them the reasons why it was illegal, and then just putting a definition on something to be able to finance something, to be able to insure something, and then people are really excited.
Now, a real hero of this event has been Build Us Hope and Tiny House Developers' Big Blue Tiny House.
There's been a line at the house all 5 days. It's absolutely awesome.
And it's a 32-foot tiny house. We did a live tour last week. Check out that video. It's a gorgeous space that shows how, through efficient design, you can, even in a space as big or as tiny as that, depending on your perspective, you can fit 3 sleeping areas comfortably with a large living space. And people, general public, policymakers, HUD representatives have all gone in and come out saying, wow, this feels so much bigger than I thought it was, and I can really see how this could be a comfortable, livable space.
These are awesome.
Thank you.
This is super fun. I love it. And thanks for everything you guys do with veterans.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Elizabeth Singleton, and I'm with Build Us Hope and the Tiny House Developers. Build Us Hope is a nonprofit that builds tiny home communities for our homeless veterans and for affordable housing purposes. And the Tiny House Developers is our profit arm that actually supports our nonprofit by building for private and individuals, tiny houses on wheels and tiny houses on foundation. So Big Blue is an 8 by 32 foot tiny house. It is made with light gauge steel paneling system, which we inject with graphite polystyrene, which gives it a stronger and higher R value. The floor, the ceiling, and the side walls are all insulated. Big Blue is a 3-bedroom, so we have a king and queen loft and then a downstairs bedroom. It has a full kitchen and a full bathroom with a stand-up shower. So it's very spacious, as you can tell. So we have our standard floor plans, which comes from 8 by 12 to it goes to 8 by 42. So we have those standard floor plans for on wheels, and that's a basic. This one is an 8 by 32, so it starts off at $50,000, and the more custom designs that you get, it goes up to $79,000. So they can special order changes to our standard floor plans. And we do a lot of small detail custom designs that people are looking for as well. So V13 is our veteran tiny home. That was our home that took us 2 years to get through. Now we're doing very well, and we're about to expand it and start on the second part, which will add 4 more new homes and a community center. We hope that we can break ground here in August.
We're delighted that tiny homes could be here to represent the tiny home industry, which is really so much nicer than anybody knows, and provides incredible opportunities for people, you know, who are getting started, or maybe people who are sort of winding down. There's a whole variety of uses for the tiny homes, and I hope people have an opportunity to go inside and actually see how spacious it is.
To have tiny homes included in this event is massive, because we're talking about the highest level of government-controlled housing, really, saying we like this idea, we want more of this idea, and that's going to trickle down into all of our communities. I want people to know that there is hope, and you can make change. We made change. We changed the law. We put a bill in place, right? That's massive. So you can do this. And I really just want people to understand that just regular citizens, you can go talk to these people, talk to these officials, make the town hall meetings. You can make this happen. And if you've lost hope, that's okay. We're going to keep going. Or you can also join this effort and then have that feeling of hope going through.
We came down to the core root of all this, it was taking care of people. And I wanted to take care of my children and provide them a future for home ownership, which is really hard nowadays. $400,000 house coming out of college could be rough. And so meeting up with Hannah Rose Crabtree here, who is an avid socialized Democrat in Seattle, and me being a conservative, actually the secretary of my Republican district, the 31st, we're all agree on this stuff. It wasn't much tearing of teeth or a ripping of meat. We got along, and we can get along, and this was, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, it was huge.
I think it's huge that we can work together in that sense, and that we
Sides.
can talk to both sides and then show how we're agreeing, and this is bipartisanship, and this is just about people at the end of the day. Everybody is having an issue with affordable housing regardless of your political leanings, but then teaming up means that we can really reach the whole spectrum and have these conversations with people that wouldn't necessarily talk to one of us.
And it came down to education. There was this education piece and alleviating fear. Everybody has their constant fear. Well, I don't want the slums in my district. And that came from, both Republicans and Democrats. So it's like, getting involved in this was about, who has $100,000 to apply for a permit for a house and have a tiny house? Like, not a lot of people. So when we actually weeded through all of that, it came down to, there's people that we need to care for, and let's do it. Let's just work together and make it happen.
There is an affordable housing crisis. There's a lot of scarcity out there, so we're looking for solutions that are a little bit different technologies, different types of homes, and it looks like what we're seeing here today, fits a lot of what we need.
And the other big hit is Indy Dwell. Huge hit at the show. It's built with shipping containers. They come in 1, 2, or 3 shipping container size units that could be assembled in different styles and layouts. It could be very modern looking, it could be very traditional with a gable roof.
So Indy Dwell is a public benefit corporation. Basically, it's a for-profit company that has a social mission at its core. And our social mission is to help to solve the affordable housing crisis, which we see as a two-sided problem. So we certainly have a supply side problem. There's just not enough houses for people. But we also have a jobs problem. People aren't being paid a wage that allows them to get into housing. And so we're attacking the problem from two sides. With the employment side, we pay a minimum wage of $16 an hour, an average wage of $21 an hour. Every employee has 100% of medical, dental, vision paid for. Every employee is an owner in the business, and they all have profit sharing, full-time, year-round work, 20 days of paid vacation, and paternity and maternity leave. So it's a real job, and our benchmark really is we want all of our employees to be able to afford our houses. We figure that if the employees can't afford the houses, then we're just part of the problem, not part of the solution. And then on the housing side, what we're really trying to do is build a very, very healthy, very durable, very energy efficient, and very sustainable house in a smaller footprint, so that the overall price point of the home is very affordable and accessible to people that are at all spectrums of the income ladder. And so what that means for us is we want to be able to build a net zero ready, very energy efficient home, because saving people money on their utility costs puts money directly into their pocket. We want to build a really durable home so that they don't have to have a lot of maintenance costs in their home, which again puts money in their pocket. We want to build a very healthy home, and we really focus on indoor air quality. So all of our products that we put into the home are green certified. We try to minimize the use of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, in the home. And then we put an energy recovery ventilator in every home. So we're constantly bringing in fresh air via HEPA filter and then pumping out stale air 24 hours a day. Again, it's an economic empowerment tool for the occupant, because if you're able to stay healthy, then you can save money. And lastly, we focus heavily on sustainability as well. So we are standing, again, in one of our 960 square foot homes. That's 3 shipping containers that have reached the end of their useful life, and then we're taking them and upcycling them into housing. The process by which we build them, it's a factory-built process. At the end of the day, we produce, in producing this home, about 1 trash can full of waste. which if you can think about the process to build a house on site, you have those big, dumpsters full of waste. We have one trash can. Almost everything that we're doing is cut to size, and then what little waste that we have, is mostly from packaging, from materials that we get. Everything in the house is usually recycled. So that's kind of the big picture of what we're focused on. We're standing in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. This one is $120,000 delivered and installed. We have a unit down from that, which is 640 square feet. That one's $85,000 delivered and installed. And then our smallest unit is 320 square feet, and that is $55,000 delivered and installed. And the key point is with this, as opposed to a lot of other small structures, is this housing is built to the International Residential Code. So this is the exact same as a site-built home, so you can get a conventional mortgage on it, you can get conventional insurance on it, and it appreciates with the market, unlike the personal property that sometimes depreciates.
So really a killer example of how we can meet both housing and employment needs in our country, because one reason why people can't afford homes and why this whole event is happening is because there's a huge chunk of our country, 43% in fact, based on a United Way study, that are struggling to meet basic needs like housing, groceries, healthcare, let alone have savings accounts. And that's actually something that I spoke about on the tiny house panel discussion that was moderated by Zach Giffen.
When I first learned about tiny homes, I thought that what a tiny home was on a trailer. Because when I first saw things that people called tiny homes, they all were on trailers. And that was a significance because it was something brand new. And I do feel like when they got put on the trailers is what triggered people to have to start using a new name. They couldn't just call them, oh, it's a cottage or it's a cabin. So I definitely will back you on that there does need to be some kind of distinction.
Well, in my view, a tiny house is a dwelling that's under 400 square feet, as Andrew pointed out, and it can be built to International Residential Code standards or a hybrid with ANSI, which is used for RVs. But typically, when you say tiny house, it's movable. And the question I always like to ask people is why wheels, right? Because it seems like, well, why don't you just put on a foundation? But there's a lot of value to something that can be moved. For the homeowner, it's an affordable way to relocate for big life changes that really meets our fast-paced world that we live in today. And, unlike other manufactured housing, it's a lot more cost prohibitive and a lot more difficult. But this can be done relatively easily. And here's the fun fact, is most tiny house dwellers only move 1 to 3 times ever because they are just moving so they can be a better caregiver for family members or for a new job or something like that. So these aren't moving just to move.
There's been all of these discussions and all of these zoning codes that have been the result of long discussions between city councils, and they're all being done independently. And there's no conversation on a more large, unified capacity that could expedite those local conversations. So that's a really important thing.
What I've seen happen in my own personal experience trying to get permits and things like that for our homes, like I have a house I set up 1.5 miles from here, where we are right now, fully permitted, tied into the grid, it's on somebody's property behind their house with a 0 lot clearance, no problem. I've tried to put one in my own yard, I can't do it.
We're now having our state come up with a full policy that will be zoned for tiny homes, and we're working with HUD to come up with policies that FHA financing will be available for platforms under 400 square feet since they don't have a requirement on sizes. So I'm focused on a policy change so it helps all of you be able to do it in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's people of all ages, all backgrounds, who are drawn to tiny living, which is remarkable. And one of my favorite things about that is it is apolitical. you know, people, it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, everyone can appreciate affordable housing, everyone can appreciate a high quality of life, and a tiny house represents that. But rapidly growing is the number of people who want to live in a tiny home that's well designed because they discover, guess what, I can live comfortably this way to meet my needs, and I'm going to have a higher quality of life because the savings I get, I can use towards healthcare, I can use towards groceries, or something fancy like a savings account, you know?
Right. Americans still believe in the American dream, and we have an affordable housing crisis, and we don't have enough land space anymore. People are moving back in the homes with their family members. What tiny house homes create on wheels and on foundation is a sense of I can still have that American dream and not go broke, you know? I don't have to live with my parents, or I may live in the backyard, but I own my own home. And so when you are in a crisis, then you have to start thinking outside of the box, and that's what this is today. That's what all of you are here doing today, is let's think outside the box.
We all have a piece of the puzzle, right? And if we can get everybody to bring their piece of the puzzle, it's going to be a beautiful picture. And I think that we're just now starting to get some of the major pieces in place, HUD being one, and really hats off to HUD for even being open to, let alone initiating.
Put it up for our distinguished guests here, Andrew Bennett, Elizabeth Singleton, and Alexis Stevens.
As Zach Gibson put it, this is a tipping point for our movement where we're getting national recognition that is legitimizing tiny homes as a quality choice that should be explored and hopefully accepted in more and more areas across the country, and we are just so honored to be a part of it.
We've been looking at the issue of tiny homes. You know, HUD's been looking at it for a while now. How do we foster the uptake of this idea across the country in places and for people where it's appropriate, and for people who you know, it's a good solution?
So what we're most excited for going out of the Innovative Housing Showcase is to get a group of tiny house industry building leaders to be on a panel with HUD and with FEMA and really talk about how to push forward what we've been innovating for a decade, really, right? That's the biggest thing going forward.
We would love to continue that conversation because, you know, there are those who believe that all good ideas come from the federal government. I'm not one of them. I think good ideas come from the people, and people with boots on the ground who are experiencing things. And the other wonderful thing about tiny homes, recognize that the age of home ownership keeps moving further and further back. It used to be, you know, in your mid-20s, you know, and then the late 20s, and then the early 30s, and then the mid-30s. Now it's mid to late 30s, early 40s, and, you know, people just can't afford the kind of house. The average cost of a new home now is like $309,000. But you can get into a tiny home, or you can get into a manufactured home for much less, and you're building equity. And then you can use that equity to make the next step. And these are concepts that, you know, people haven't been thinking a lot about, but this is a perfect mechanism for being able to do that.
I don't think there could have been a better statement for our movement to showcase the many ways that they're making a difference and can continue to make a difference with the right support and policy.
We did have a lot of people that are in this building back here tell us, well, why is that? You know, why is that regulation there? Or they should be doing something about that. Or
or let me look into that.
Yeah, or let me look into that.
It's not going to solve all those issues, but you have to keep getting the conversation deeper and deeper to get to that place where there is greater acceptance.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Good, you all look fine this morning.
You know, maybe we built out to the max these mansions, and perhaps we need to start looking at a new market of those recent graduates from college who may be loaded down with student debt, make a pathway for them to become homeowners. Look at energy efficient homes. Look at these people that are just starting families who may have children on the way but could afford a modest home. Those are the kind of things we could do as a government.
So I would agree with that. So I think the National Association of Home Builders did a study that indicated that 33% on average the cost of home is through regulation and zoning. That's a huge number. You drop the cost of a home by 20%, and all of a sudden it becomes far more affordable to far more people. So the question becomes, and you're right, usually this is your local zoning issues. I like local control, I like state control, I like less federal control, but a lot of these rules and regulations, they just keep piling them on and never go back and look and say, how effective are the old rules? And so I agree with Lacy, there might be a way for us to leverage the resources that we send to communities to say, you got to take a look at this. And I'm not a no regulation guy, we just talked about flood. I want to make sure we're building homes to code. But I think there's a lot of stupid regulation that's out there, and we have to get local communities to reevaluate what they're doing.
This event has really taken tiny houses to a whole new level, but there's still challenges and there's still things for everyone out there to do.
So we need you all to get involved. Join the American Tiny House Association, show up to local planning meetings, share this video or share a news story about the Innovative Housing Showcase with your local policymakers or statewide policymakers. Let them know that this is an option and see if you can set up an educational presentation. That's a great place to start.
It is a great place.
And I'm leaving this weekend completely inspired.
So make sure to follow us for more big tiny house news.
See you guys down the road.
Take it easy. What do you think, buddy?
Good.
Yeah? You like?
Wow. Yep, I do. This is pretty fascinating.
Hey guys, Alexis and Christian here with Tiny House Expedition.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And click left or right for more tiny house stories and tours.